January 15th, 1968, 10 o'clock in the morning, the Rose Garden at the White House. Garrett Brennan stands 3 feet from the President of the United States. Camera flashes pop like artillery fire. The winter sun cuts through the bare tree branches. Cold air, but Garrett's collar is damp with sweat. He is 55 years old, administrator of NASA for 3 years. Before that, 20 years building rockets in the desert. Before that, a pilot in the Pacific. He has been afraid before, shot at, nearly killed twice. But this moment, standing in the Rose Garden with cameras and senators and the weight of a nation watching this, is different. The President is speaking. Garrett hears the words, but they sound distant, like they're coming through water. And so today I am proud to announce America's commitment. We will land a man on the moon, not in 5 years, not in 2 years, in 6 months. Applause erupts. Garrett doesn't move. 6 months. He rehearsed this moment. He knew the timeline. He agreed to it. But hearing it spoken aloud, official, irreversible, the number suddenly feels different. 6 months. 180 days to do what has never been done. To his right stands Marshall Whitmore, 62 years old, chief flight director, friend for 20 years. They flew together in the war. They built NASA together after. Marshall's face is calm, confident. His presence steadies Garrett. The President turns. Mr. Administrator, can you guarantee this timeline? Every microphone in the Rose Garden angles toward Garrett. This is the moment, the hinge point. Everything before now is preparation. Everything after is consequence. Garrett looks at Marshall. Marshall gives a small nod. Trust, certainty. The same nod he gave in a bomber cockpit over Okinawa when the engine caught fire and Garrett had to decide whether to bail out or try to land. Marshall nodded then too. They made it. Garrett turns to the President, the cameras, the nation. Mr. President, I give you my word, 6 months. His voice doesn't shake. That surprises him. We will put an American on the moon by July 20th, 1968. You have my personal guarantee. The President shakes his hand. The cameras flash again. Senators applaud. Marshall claps him on the shoulder. Garrett smiles. The right smile. The confident smile. Inside, a small voice asks, what have I just promised? But the moment is over. The decision made. The country is watching. There is no going back. 6 months and 6 days later, July 21st, 1968, 2 o'clock in the morning, Mission Control, Houston. Garrett sits in the administrator's office, not at his desk, on the floor, back against the wall, tie loosened, jacket on the floor beside him. The deadline passed yesterday. July 20th came and went. No launch, no moon, no American footprint in the lunar dust, just silence. His office phone has been ringing every 20 minutes. He stopped answering at midnight. The calls are all the same. Senators, White House staff, journalists, all asking the same question in different words. Where is the moon landing? The door opens. Preston Lockwood enters without knocking. Deputy Administrator, 48 years old, thin, precise. The man who keeps NASA's books. The man who knows exactly what every promise costs. Preston carries a folder. He doesn't sit, just stands there holding the folder like it weighs 50 pounds. You should read this, Preston says. Garrett doesn't move. Tell me. $4.2 billion spent. 18 months, not 6. 7 astronauts dead in training accidents. 0 successful orbital tests. The press is calling it the biggest government failure since... I don't care what the press is calling it. Preston sets the folder on the desk. The Board of Inquiry meets Tuesday. They're going to ask why we missed the deadline by 12 months. 12 months. A full year. Garrett promised 6 months. He meant it. Marshall assured him it was possible. Marshall has never been wrong before, except now. Where's Marshall? Garrett asks. Still in mission control. Test simulation, same as yesterday, same as the day before. Garrett closes his eyes. Marshall is working. Marshall is always working, preparing, reviewing, running checks. Marshall believes in process, in safety protocols, in doing things right even if it takes longer. Garrett used to believe that too. He still wants to believe it. But 12 months. Preston moves toward the door, stops. Sir, one more thing. The CIA briefing is at 10 a.m. You should be there. Why? Soviet activity. They want you to know before the president does. Preston leaves. The door clicks shut. Garrett sits in the dark. His office has a window that overlooks the mission control floor. Through the glass, he can see the consoles, the screens, the maps. Marshall is down there somewhere, running another simulation, checking another calculation, making sure everything is perfect. Perfect. That word has started to feel dangerous. Garrett pulls himself up, 55 years old, and his knees hurt. He walks to the window, looks down at mission control. Dozens of people working the night shift, young engineers, technicians, all of them believers, all of them trusting that the plan will work, the plan that is 12 months behind schedule. Garrett's reflection stares back at him from the glass. He looks older than he did 6 months ago. No, 18 months ago, the day he made the promise. His phone rings again. 3 a.m. He knows who it is before he picks up. Brennan. The voice on the other end is cold, measured, White House Chief of Staff. Garrett, the president wants an explanation, tomorrow, 10 a.m. sharp, and he wants to know about the Soviet situation before the meeting. I assume the CIA has briefed you. 10 a.m., Garrett says. I'll be there. Garrett, the president trusted you personally. He put his reputation behind your promise. Do you understand what that means? Garrett understands. It means if NASA fails, the president falls, and if the president falls, everyone goes with him, including the man who made the promise, including Garrett. I understand, Garrett says. Good. Because the intelligence we're getting says the Soviets are planning a launch. 4 months, maybe less. If they beat us to the moon after we've spent 18 months trying, the Chief of Staff doesn't finish the sentence. He doesn't need to. The call ends. Garrett sets down the phone. His hand is shaking now, just a slight tremor, nothing anyone would notice, but he notices. The Soviets, 4 months. Marshall said 6 more months minimum. That would put them at January 69, 6 months after the Soviets. Second place. America, the nation that invented the airplane that won the war that leads the free world, coming in second to the Soviet Union in the race to the moon. Garrett thinks about the promise he made, the president's hand shaking his, the cameras, the certainty in his voice. He thinks about Marshall's nod, that confident, steady nod. He thinks about what his wife said to him last week. They were in bed late, both unable to sleep. She turned to him in the dark and said, "Sometimes friendship means telling hard truths." He didn't know what she meant then. He thinks he's starting to understand now. The small voice inside him, the one that asked, "What have I just promised 18 months ago," is asking a different question now. Can Marshall deliver? And if he can't, what? Then Garrett doesn't want to answer that question. He's not ready for what the answer might be. But ready or not, the question is here. And tomorrow the president will ask it out loud. April 1968, 4 months after the White House promise. 8 months before the deadline. Garrett stands in the observation room at Cape Canaveral. Through the thick windows he can see the launch pad. 3 miles away, Test Mission Alpha, the 4th attempt at a successful orbital test. The previous 3 had problems, technical issues, nothing catastrophic, just problems. Marshall said that's normal, part of the process, but normal doesn't put men on the moon in 6 months. The countdown reaches 0, ignition. The rocket lifts, beautiful, powerful. For 3 seconds everything is perfect. Then fire blooms at the base, not exhaust, not normal. Wrong fire, orange and black. The rocket tilts. The automated safety system kicks in. Destruction sequence initiated. The rocket explodes, a fireball 300 feet across. The shockwave takes 4 seconds to reach the observation room. When it hits, the windows rattle. Someone behind Garrett gasps. Garrett doesn't move. He just watches the fire. $4 billion, 18 months, 7 dead astronauts, and now this. He walks out of the observation room, finds a phone, calls Marshall. Marshall answers on the first ring. "I saw it," Marshall says before Garrett can speak. I'm reviewing the data now. We'll know what happened within 12 hours. Marshall, this is exactly why we need the safety protocols, Garrett. Exactly why we can't rush. If we'd cut corners, if we'd listened to the people saying go faster, we'd have put astronauts on that rocket. They'd be dead now. Marshall's voice is steady, calm, rational. Garrett wants to scream. Instead, he says, the deadline is in 4 months. I know. 4 months, Marshall. We just lost another rocket, another test, another delay. Garrett, you know how this works. We can't. How long? Silence on the other end. How long until the next test? 6 weeks to rebuild. Then 2 weeks to review the failure analysis. Then 8 weeks, minimum. Garrett does the math in his head. 8 weeks to the next test. If it succeeds, another 4 weeks to prepare the actual mission. That's 3 months, which means the absolute earliest they could launch would be August, 2 months after the deadline. We need to accelerate, Garrett says. We need to be thorough, Marshall counters. Speed kills astronauts. Delay kills the program. Better a delayed program than dead Americans, Garrett. You know I'm right. And that's the problem. Marshall is right. On paper, in theory. In a world where time doesn't matter and political pressure doesn't exist and the Soviets aren't breathing down their necks. But they don't live in that world. Garrett hangs up without saying goodbye. He's never done that before. In 20 years of friendship, he's never hung up on Marshall. He stands in the corridor at Cape Canaveral watching technicians through the windows running toward the fire with extinguishers trying to save what can be saved. The White House calls an hour later. Garrett takes it in a private office. The president's voice is tight. Garrett, I just watched $4 billion explode on national television. Yes, sir. Tell me this doesn't affect the timeline. Garrett could lie. Could say they're on track, could buy another few weeks of blind faith. But he's tired of lying, tired of pretending. Sir, we're not going to make July. I need to be honest with you. Silence. Long, heavy. Then, how far behind? 2 months, maybe 3. The Soviets are launching in 6 months, Garrett. 6. If we come in second after I stood in the Rose Garden and promised the nation, I know, sir, I know what I promised. Then fix it. The president hangs up. Garrett sits in the empty office for 20 minutes. Then he walks outside. The Florida heat hits him like a physical thing. The launch pad is still smoking. Crews are hosing down the wreckage. He thinks about Marshall's words, speed kills astronauts. He thinks about the president's words, fix it. He thinks about the promise he made. 6 months, his personal guarantee. And he thinks about the one thing he hasn't allowed himself to think about until now. What if Marshall can't do it? August 1968. 2 months past the deadline. Test Mission Bravo. Garrett is back in the observation room at Cape Canaveral. Preston Lockwood stands beside him. Marshall is in mission control running the flight profile. This time the launch is perfect. The rocket climbs smooth and fast, reaches orbit. The capsule separates. All systems nominal. For 6 hours everything works. Then the re-entry system fails. Garrett watches the screens, hears the radio chatter. The crew is trying to troubleshoot. Marshall is feeding them procedures, step by step. Methodical. But the clock is ticking. They have limited fuel, limited air. The crew finally gets the backup system working. They make it into the atmosphere. The parachutes deploy late, too late. The capsule hits the ocean hard, very hard. The astronauts survive, barely. One has a broken arm, the other a concussion. Both are unconscious when the recovery team pulls them from the water. The mission is called a success because no one died. Garrett calls that a failure. That night back in Houston, Garrett sits in his office with Marshall. It's 10 p.m. They're alone. This is the first time they've been alone since the phone call after Test Alpha exploded. We need to talk, Garrett says. Marshall looks tired, more tired than Garrett has ever seen him. I know what you're going to say. Do you? We're behind schedule. We need to go faster. I've heard it from everyone. The White House, Congress, the press, now you. Marshall, 2 men almost died today, but they didn't. The systems worked. The backups worked. That's exactly what I've been building. Redundancy, safety. So when things go wrong, we can recover. They shouldn't go wrong in the first place. Marshall's jaw tightens. You think I don't know that? You think I'm not pushing these teams as hard as I can? We're doing everything right, Garrett. Everything by the book. If we cut corners, if we rush, people will die. If we don't launch soon, the program will die. Better the program than astronauts. Garrett looks at his friend. Marshall believes every word he's saying. Marshall is not being obstinate or difficult. He genuinely believes that careful, methodical progress is the only way, and maybe in another timeline with unlimited time and unlimited budget and no Soviet threat, Marshall would be absolutely right. But that's not the timeline they're in. Marshall, I need you to be honest with me. As a friend, not as flight director, as the man I've trusted for 20 years. Can you get us to the moon before the Soviets? Marshall doesn't answer immediately. That silence tells Garrett everything. Finally, if we maintain current safety standards and don't rush critical systems, 6 more months, maybe 8. 6 more months. That would put them at February 69. The Soviets are planning to launch in December, maybe January. They would be second. That's not acceptable, Garrett says quietly. That's reality, Marshall says. Not angry, just factual. You want me to promise something I can't deliver? I won't do it, Garrett. I won't risk lives for political deadlines. This isn't about politics. This is about what national pride, about looking good on television. Those astronauts have families, Garrett, wives, children. You want me to tell those families that their husband, their father died because we were in a hurry? Garrett doesn't have an answer for that. Marshall stands. I'm doing everything I can, if that's not good enough. If you want someone who'll cut corners and take risks and put men in coffins for the sake of a deadline, then find someone else. Marshall walks out. Garrett sits alone in his office. It's the first time Marshall has ever walked out on him. The friendship is cracking. Garrett can feel it. 20 years of trust, of brotherhood, fracturing under the weight of an impossible promise. He picks up the phone, calls his wife. I think I'm losing him, Garrett says when she answers. Marshall, yeah. You're not losing him, you're just seeing the limit of what he can do. That sounds like the same thing. It's not. Losing him would mean giving up on the friendship. Seeing his limits just means accepting that he's not the right person for this specific mission. Those are different things, Garrett, but you have to decide which matters more. The friendship or the mission. I shouldn't have to choose. Leaders always have to choose. That's what makes it hard. She's right. He knows she's right, but knowing it doesn't make it easier. I don't want to hurt him, Garrett says. Then don't. But don't let the program fail because you're afraid of hurting a friend. That's not loyalty. That's cowardice. The word stings. Cowardice. Garrett has been called many things in his life, but never that. He hangs up, sits in the dark. His office feels smaller than it used to. The walls closer. He keeps thinking about Marshall's words. Find someone else. Marshall said it as a challenge, an ultimatum. But what if it's not? What if it's actually the answer? No. No, he can't think like that. Marshall is his friend. Marshall has never failed him before. Marshall just needs more time, more support, more... But they don't have more time. The Soviets are coming. September 1968, 3 months past the deadline, 4 months until the Soviet launch. The media turns vicious. Time magazine cover, NASA's $4 billion failure. Newsweek, the promise that broke America's trust. The New York Times runs a front-page editorial calling for Garrett's resignation. Garrett stops reading the papers, but he can't stop the phone calls. Senators demanding answers, journalists demanding interviews, the White House demanding everything. Marshall withdraws, not physically. He's still at mission control every day, but emotionally he's built a wall. He and Garrett barely speak except in official meetings. When they do talk, it's professional, distant. The friendship is still there technically, but it feels like a ghost. Preston Lockwood becomes Garrett's only real confidant. Preston doesn't judge. doesn't offer opinions, just presents facts, and the facts are brutal. We've lost 3 major contractors, Preston says one afternoon in September. They're pulling out, going to work on commercial projects, more stable funding, less political pressure. Can we function without them? Barely. It'll slow us down more. More delays. Always more delays. Garrett stares at the org chart on his wall. Hundreds of names, thousands of people working on the program, all of them depending on him to make the right decisions. But what is the right decision when all the options are bad? Preston, I need to ask you something off the record. Preston nods. If I replaced Marshall, what would happen? Preston doesn't look surprised. He's probably been expecting this question for months. 40% of the senior engineers would probably resign. They're loyal to Marshall. They believe in his methods. You'd lose institutional knowledge, experience, and there's no guarantee the replacement would be better. But there's a chance they'd be faster. Yes. How much faster? That depends on who you bring in. Garrett already knows who. He's known for weeks but hasn't admitted it to himself. There's one person with the reputation, the skill, the sheer audacity to attempt what Marshall says is impossible. Cole Hunter, test pilot, 43 years old, Air Force background, led 3 different programs that were considered doomed. All 3 succeeded, all 3 ahead of schedule, all 3 under budget. The man is brilliant and dangerous, and everything Marshall is not. If I brought in Cole Hunter, Garrett says slowly. What's your assessment? Preston considers. Marshall builds programs that don't fail. They're safe, reliable, slow. Cole breaks programs apart and rebuilds them fast. Sometimes they fail spectacularly. But when they work beyond expectations. The question isn't who's better. The question is, who do you need right now? Who do you need right now? That night, Garrett stays late in his office. It's become a habit. He can't sleep at home anymore. His wife tries to comfort him, but there's no comfort to be found. So he stays at work, stares at the maps, the timelines, the numbers that keep getting worse. At midnight, he walks down to mission control. Most of the consoles are empty. Night shift is minimal. But Marshall is there, always there, hunched over a console reviewing data. Garrett watches from the gallery. Marshall doesn't look up, doesn't see him, just works, devoted, committed, trying so hard to make everything perfect, and that's when Garrett hears it. Marshall is talking to one of his deputies. The voices carry in the quiet room. Sir, the engineers are asking about the timeline. They want to know if we're going to make the revised deadline. Tell them we'll get there when we get there. Garrett will protect us, he always has. Garrett freezes. He always has. Marshall is relying on their friendship, relying on Garrett to shield him from pressure, to give him unlimited time to protect him from consequences. And Garrett has been doing exactly that for 18 months, protecting Marshall, defending Marshall, buying Marshall time, while the program dies. Garrett turns away from the gallery, walks back to his office, closes the door. He sits at his desk, picks up the phone, stares at it for 10 minutes. Then he dials. The voice on the other end is rough, middle of the night. Hunter. Cole, this is Garrett Brennan. I'm sorry to call so late. A pause, then, Administrator Brennan, what can I do for you? I need to see you tomorrow, Houston. Is this about the moon program? Yes. I heard it's behind schedule. 14 months behind. Another pause. Longer this time. And you're calling me because I need someone who can do in 45 days what we haven't done in 18 months. Silence. Then Cole's voice, cautious but interested. That's impossible. I know. Can you do it? Cole laughs, short, sharp. Everyone said Apollo was impossible. Hell, everyone said breaking orbit was impossible once. Impossible just means no one's been crazy enough to try the right way yet. Is that a yes? That's a I'll be on the first flight to Houston. Give me 24 hours to clear my schedule. Garrett hangs up. His hand is shaking again. Not from fear this time, from something else. Resolve, decision, the feeling of stepping off a cliff and hoping there's ground below. He's just called in Marshall's replacement. He hasn't told Marshall yet. Garrett stands, walks to the window, looks down at mission control. Marshall is still there, working, believing, trusting that Garrett will protect him. And tomorrow, Garrett is going to break that trust. For 20 years, they've been friends. For 20 years, they've had each other's backs. Through war, through peace, through building NASA from nothing into the greatest aerospace program in history. And now Garrett is about to betray that friendship for the sake of a mission. Is that leadership, or is that cowardice pretending to be strength? Garrett doesn't know. Won't know until it's over. Maybe not even then. What he does know is this. He made a promise. January 15th, 1968, in the Rose Garden, in front of the nation, he gave his word, and a man who breaks his word to his country to preserve his friendship with one person is not a man worth following. So tomorrow, Cole Hunter comes to Houston. And everything changes. January 3rd, 1969, 8 o'clock in the morning. Conference Room B at NASA Headquarters, Houston. Garrett arrives early. The room is empty. Gray walls, long table, 6 chairs, windows overlooking the parking lot. Nothing special about this room. But what happens here in the next hour will determine whether America reaches the moon or watches the Soviets plant their flag first. He hasn't slept, hasn't told Marshall about this meeting. That omission feels like a stone in his chest. At 8:15, Cole Hunter walks in. He's 43 but looks younger, lean, compact, eyes that miss nothing. He wears his Air Force uniform with 3 rows of ribbons. Combat veteran, test pilot, the kind of man who volunteers for the missions other pilots refuse. They shake hands. Cole's grip is firm, confident. "Mr. Administrator?" "Call me Garrett. Sit." Cole sits, doesn't lean back, doesn't relax. Alert, ready. Garrett has a folder on the table. 18 months of failure documented in graphs and charts. He slides it across. "This is where we are. Read it." Cole opens the folder. His eyes move fast, scanning, processing. He doesn't read every page, doesn't need to. He's looking for patterns, problems, the kind of inefficiencies that turn months into years. 5 minutes. That's all it takes. Cole closes the folder. "You're building the perfect machine," Cole says. "Problem is perfect takes forever, and forever doesn't beat the Soviets." Marshall Whitmore is the best flight director in NASA. He built this program from nothing. I'm sure he did. And I'm sure he's brilliant, but he's fighting yesterday's war. This is 1969. The Soviets iterate weekly, you iterate quarterly. They're fast and sloppy. You're slow and perfect. Guess who wins? Garrett's hands are flat on the table. "If I brought you in, how long would it take? To do what, get to the moon or get to the moon alive? Both." Cole leans forward. "Give me full operational control. No committees, no approval processes, no 28 checkpoints, 45 days. 45 days. Marshall said 6 months. The difference is a chasm." "That's impossible," Garrett says. "So is breaking the sound barrier. So is orbit. Impossible is just a word people use when they're too careful to try. Or when they're too smart to die." Cole doesn't smile. "Mr. Administrator Garrett, I've lost friends, good pilots, men who took calculated risks and lost. I know what failure costs, but I also know what paralysis costs. Right now you're paralyzed, and paralysis doesn't put anyone on the moon. It just burns money while watching the Soviets win." Garrett looks at this man, this stranger, trying to see what's real and what's bravado. "Why should I trust you?" "You shouldn't. You should trust my record. 3 programs, all deemed impossible, all delivered ahead of schedule." "I don't do impossible, I do improbable. There's a difference." "What's the difference?" "Impossible means you need to break the laws of physics. Improbable just means you need to break some rules. I'm very good at breaking rules. And if you fail, if those 45 days end with dead astronauts..." Cole's expression doesn't change. "Then I'll resign and you'll have the satisfaction of knowing you tried something different before the program collapsed. But I won't fail. Not because I'm arrogant. Because I only take bets I can win." Garrett sits back. His mind is calculating. Running scenarios. Marshall's way slow safe, certain to miss the Soviet deadline. Cole's way fast, risky, possibly catastrophic, but possibly successful. I need 72 hours, Garrett says. Don't talk to anyone, don't tell anyone you're here. I need to evaluate the situation. Evaluate away. But the clock's ticking. Every day you wait is a day the Soviets get closer. Cole stands, shakes Garrett's hand again. When he leaves, the room feels different, charged, like lightning just passed through. Garrett sits alone for 20 minutes, then he picks up the phone, calls Preston. I need you to watch someone for me. Quietly. Don't tell Marshall. January 6th, 3 days later. Garrett doesn't tell Cole he's being evaluated. Doesn't need to. Cole is smart enough to know. Preston arranges for Cole to have access to the engineering floors. Not officially. Just the doors happen to be unlocked. The engineers happen to be available to talk. Garrett watches from a distance. Cole moves through NASA like a doctor examining a patient, asking questions, listening, really listening, not nodding and moving on, absorbing, processing. On the first day, Cole spends 4 hours with the propulsion team. Garrett watches through the glass. The engineers are skeptical at first. Who is this Air Force guy asking about rocket engines? But Cole asks good questions. Technical questions. The kind that prove he understands the physics, not just the politics. By hour 2, the engineers are sketching diagrams on whiteboards. By hour 3, they're debating solutions. By hour 4, they're laughing, actually laughing. Garrett hasn't seen his engineers laugh in 6 months. On the second day, Cole reviews the safety protocols, all 28 checkpoints. He doesn't criticize them publicly, just reads, makes notes. That evening, Garrett finds Cole in the cafeteria, sits down across from him without invitation. What did you find? Cole is eating a sandwich, doesn't stop chewing, swallows. You want the diplomatic answer or the truth? I called you here for truth. 17 of your 28 checkpoints are redundant. 6 more are checking things that don't need checking. 3 are actually useful. 2 are critical. The rest are just bureaucracy pretending to be safety. Marshall created those checkpoints. I'm sure he did, and they probably made sense when he designed them. But they've metastasized. Every time something went wrong, someone added another checkpoint. Now you've got a system that's so safe it can't move. It's like putting a patient in a coma to prevent them from getting hurt. Sure, they're safe, but they're also not living. Garrett wants to be offended, wants to defend Marshall, but he can't, because somewhere deep down he's been thinking the same thing for months. On the third day, Cole talks to the astronauts. Garrett watches this through the window of the training facility. The astronauts are protective of Marshall. He's kept them alive, made sure every system has 3 backups. But when Cole asks them a simple question, their answer tells Garrett everything. If you could launch tomorrow knowing the risks, would you go? All 4 astronauts say yes, without hesitation, without qualification, yes. Marshall has been protecting them, but they don't want protection. They want to fly. That night, January 8th, Garrett sits in his office with Cole's written assessment. 30 pages, detailed, brutal, honest. The summary is 3 sentences. Marshall Whitmore built a program that cannot fail because it cannot launch. To reach the moon before the Soviets, you need someone willing to accept calculated risk. I can do it in 45 days if you give me full authority and accept that perfection is the enemy of progress. Garrett reads those 3 sentences 10 times. Then he closes the report, locks it in his desk drawer. Tomorrow he has to tell Marshall, January 9th morning. Garrett doesn't call ahead, doesn't schedule a meeting, just walks down to Mission Control at 7 a.m. and finds Marshall at his usual console. Marshall, my office, now! Marshall looks up, sees something in Garrett's face, follows without question. They walk through the corridors in silence. Early morning. Few people around, their footsteps echo. Inside Garrett's office, Marshall sits. Garrett doesn't. Garrett stands by the window, looking out. Can't look at Marshall for this. I've brought in Cole Hunter. Silence. Then, the test pilot. Yes. For what? Garrett turns, faces his friend. To evaluate the program. Marshall's expression doesn't change, but something happens behind his eyes. A door closing. You brought in someone to evaluate my work without telling me. Yes. How long has he been here? 3 days. Marshall stands, slowly. 3 days. You've had him talking to my engineers, reviewing my protocols, examining my program for 3 days, and you didn't think to mention it. I needed an independent assessment. You needed. What about what I need, Garrett? What about trust? What about 20 years of friendship? What about the fact that I've been killing myself for this program while you've been quietly bringing in my replacement? I haven't replaced you. Then what is this? Garrett has rehearsed this conversation in his head 50 times. None of the rehearsals prepared him for how much it would hurt. Marshall, I need you to step back from operational command of the mission. The words hang in the air, heavy, final. Marshall doesn't react, not visibly, but Garrett knows him well enough to see the impact. It's like watching a building collapse in slow motion, the foundation cracking, the walls beginning to fall. Step back, Marshall says quietly. That's a nice way of saying fired. You're not being fired. You're being realigned. Senior advisory role. Your expertise is invaluable, but the operational command needs to shift to someone who can move faster. To Cole Hunter. Yes, the cowboy, the risk-taker, the man who'll cut every corner and hope physics works out in his favor. The man who's delivered 3 impossible programs ahead of schedule. Marshall's laugh is bitter, short. And how many people has he killed along the way? How many test pilots didn't make it back? How many families got a folded flag instead of their father? That's not fair. Fair, you want to talk about fair? I've spent 18 months building a program that won't kill anyone. That puts safety first, that does things right. And now you're telling me that was wrong. That I should have been reckless, that I should have risked lives to meet a political deadline. I'm not saying that. Then what are you saying, Garrett? Marshall's voice rises. Garrett has never heard him yell, not in 20 years. Say it clearly. Tell me what you're saying. Garrett forces himself to meet Marshall's eyes. I'm saying we're out of time. I'm saying the Soviets launch in 4 months. I'm saying your methods, which are brilliant and safe and careful, are too slow. I'm saying I need someone different, not better, different. Someone like Cole Hunter. Yes, Marshall nods. Once. Final. Then you don't need me at all. Marshall, you're critical to this program. Your expertise. Don't patronize me with advisory roles and consultant positions. You want me gone, so I'll go. I don't want you gone. I want you in a different role. No, Garrett. You want someone else to do my job, which means you don't want me. Not for anything that matters. Marshall walks to the door, stops, doesn't turn around. 20 years, Garrett. I thought that counted for something. It does. That's what makes this so hard. Marshall opens the door. It's not hard for you. It's just necessary. There's a difference. He leaves. Doesn't slam the door. That would be too dramatic. Just closes it, soft click, and Garrett is alone. He sits at his desk, puts his head in his hands. He's just lost his best friend. For 45 days, for a calculated risk, for a program that might still fail. The weight of it is crushing. January 20th, 11 days after the confrontation, Marshall hasn't resigned. Yet Garrett thought he would, expected it, prepared for it. But Marshall is still here, working, not in mission control, in his private office, door closed, lights on late into the night. Preston knocks on Garrett's door. Sir Marshall wants to meet, says he has a proposal. Garrett's stomach tightens. Here it comes. The ultimatum. They meet in conference room B. Marshall brings 3 binders, sets them on the table with a heavy thunk. I have a solution, Marshall says without preamble. Operation Phoenix. Complete redesign of the spacecraft architecture. 8 weeks, $200 million additional budget. But it'll work, guaranteed. Garrett opens the first binder. Technical schematics, detailed, professional, thorough. You want to start over? Not start over, rebuild correctly. What we have now is compromised. Half measures, we cut corners trying to meet deadlines. Phoenix fixes everything, makes it right. Marshall, we don't have 8 weeks. Then we'll fail. Garrett, you can rush this and kill astronauts. Or you can do it right and beat the Soviets properly, but you can't do both. Garrett looks at his friend, former friend, colleague now. Marshall believes this completely. This isn't obstruction. This is genuine conviction that this is the only way. If I approve this, you'll stay. If you approve this, I'll guarantee success. Garrett makes the calculation. 8 weeks. That puts them at mid-March. The Soviets might launch by then, but if Phoenix works... And this is Marshall's way of staying, of proving himself, of showing that his methods still work. Approved. 200 million, 8 weeks, but Marshall, this is all in. If Phoenix fails, we're done. No third chances. Marshall nods. Understood. They shake hands. Brief. Professional. But the handshake lasts a second longer than necessary, both men holding on, both acknowledging what this means. One last chance. For Marshall, for their friendship, for everything. February through mid-March, 8 weeks of Operation Phoenix. Garrett watches from his office, watches Marshall transform. The exhaustion disappears, the doubt vanishes. This is Marshall at his best, building, creating, solving problems. Week 1, redesign complete, beautiful on paper. Engineers enthusiastic. Week 2. First components manufactured. Quality exceptional. Week 3. Integration begins, some issues. Expected, Marshall handles them. Week 4, Cole Hunter watching from the sidelines, not interfering, but watching. Garrett sees the tension. 2 alpha males, 2 completely different philosophies, both waiting to see who's right. Week 5. Soviet intelligence reports escalate. Launch window opening, time running out. Week 6, Phoenix spacecraft taking shape. It's gorgeous. More advanced than anything NASA has built, but complex, very complex. Week 7, systems testing. Some systems pass, some fail. Marshall revises, fixes, iterates. Week 8, demo day approaches. Marshall is confident, more confident than Garrett has seen him in months. Preston pulls Garrett aside. Sir, I've reviewed the Phoenix specs. It's brilliant engineering, but it's untested, completely new architecture. If even one integration point fails, I know. And we've already spent the 200 million. If this doesn't work, we're out of time and out of money. I know that too. But Garrett has to believe, has to trust, has to give Marshall this chance, because if he doesn't, the friendship is over forever. March 18th, 1969. Operation Phoenix Demonstration Day. The hangar at Cape Canaveral is packed. Board members, White House observers, press, NASA leadership. 300 people waiting to see if Marshall Whitmore's gamble pays off. Garrett stands in the front row, Cole Hunter beside him, Preston on the other side, all 3 men silent, tense. Marshall stands beside the Phoenix spacecraft. It's beautiful, sleek, advanced, everything a moon rocket should be. This is Marshall's masterpiece, his vindication, his proof that careful, methodical work succeeds where rushed decisions fail. The demonstration begins. Systems initialization. Marshall's voice over the speakers. Calm, professional. In control. Power up sequence. Green lights across the board, navigation check, perfect alignment. Communication systems, crystal clear, 5 minutes in, 10 minutes, everything flawless. Garrett feels his chest loosen. Maybe Marshall was right. Maybe this is the answer. Cole watches without expression, but Garrett can see the calculation happening behind his eyes. Assessing, judging. 15 minutes. Life support activation. The system engages, oxygen flow normal, carbon dioxide scrubbers active, temperature regulation optimal. Marshall's voice, life support nominal, all parameters within expected range, 20 seconds, 30, 45, then a yellow light, warning indicator, Marshall's voice still calm. Minor fluctuation in oxygen pressure, within tolerance, monitoring. The yellow light stays on, 1 minute. The fluctuation continues, 2 minutes, the fluctuation increases, Marshall. Engaging backup regulator. The backup activates. The yellow light turns red. Primary life support failure. Backup system struggles to compensate. 60% efficiency. Tertiary backup activates. 40% efficiency. 3 minutes into life support testing and the system is failing. Marshall's voice tight now. We have a cascade failure in the life support integration. Attempting emergency shutdown and restart. The restart fails. The demonstration is called off. The room is silent. 300 people watching Marshall Whitmore's dream collapse in real time. Garrett doesn't move, can't move, just watches Marshall standing beside his spacecraft, the spacecraft that was supposed to prove everything, the spacecraft that just failed spectacularly. 8 weeks, $200 million, Marshall's reputation. Everything riding on this moment, everything failing. Cole speaks quietly beside Garrett. Integration flaw. The individual systems work perfectly, but they don't talk to each other correctly. Classic problem when you redesign everything at once. Garrett descends from the gallery, walks across the hangar floor. People part for him. Marshall stands alone beside Phoenix, face pale, hands trembling slightly. Marshall. Marshall doesn't look at him. Just stares at the spacecraft, his failure. I was wrong, Marshall says, voice flat, empty. These things happen. No, don't. I was wrong. I thought more time would fix everything. I thought perfect methodology would prevent this, but I missed something, some fundamental integration issue I didn't see. 8 weeks, 200 million, and I missed it. Marshall, we can figure out what went wrong. Fix it. The core systems work. Stop, Garrett. Just stop. Marshall finally looks at him. His eyes are hollow, defeated. You were right, from the beginning. You should have listened to Cole immediately, should have cut me loose months ago. I've been fighting yesterday's war and I was too stubborn to see it. That's not true. It is true. I built Phoenix to prove I was right, to prove careful was better than fast, and I failed, completely, publicly. There's no coming back from this. Marshall pulls an envelope from his pocket, hands it to Garrett. I wrote this last night, just in case. Now you don't have to fire me, I'm resigning. Marshall, don't. It's done, Garrett. I'm done. You need Cole Hunter. You needed him 6 months ago. I'm just sorry I made you waste $200 million proving it. Marshall walks away, across the hangar, past the watching crowd, out the door. Garrett stands alone beside the Phoenix spacecraft, the spacecraft that was supposed to save everything, the spacecraft that just destroyed what was left of his friendship with Marshall Whitmore. He opens the envelope, reads Marshall's resignation letter. Garrett, effective immediately, I resign as Chief Flight Director. You were right to bring in Cole Hunter. You were right to question my methods. I held on to the past too long. My resignation is final. I'm sorry I failed you. Marshall. Garrett folds the letter, puts it in his pocket. Around him the crowd disperses. Quiet conversations, disappointed faces, another failure, another setback. Cole approaches, stands beside Garrett, looks at the Phoenix spacecraft. Brilliant engineering, Cole says. Wrong timing. Give Marshall another 8 weeks, he'd fix the integration issues, but we don't have 8 weeks. I know. So what now? Garrett looks at the spacecraft, then at the door where Marshall disappeared. Now we do it your way. 45 days. Can you still deliver? Yes. Even with half the senior engineers gone because they're going to follow Marshall. I'll work with whoever stays and we'll move fast enough that we won't need as many people. Garrett nods. Decision made again. For the second time in 2 months. First he chose Cole over Marshall. Then he gave Marshall one more chance with Phoenix. Now Phoenix has failed and he's back to Cole. Third time. Final time. No more chances. Conference Room B, tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. We start your 45-day sprint. Cole nods, walks away. Garrett stands alone in the empty hangar. 300 people were here 20 minutes ago. Now it's just him and a failed spacecraft. He thinks about Marshall. Where did he go, home or somewhere to be alone with his failure? Garrett pulls out his phone, dials Marshall's number. No answer. He tries again. Voicemail. Marshall, it's Garrett. Call me, please. We need to talk. But he knows Marshall won't call. Not tonight. Maybe not ever. The friendship is over. Not just damaged. Over. And this time Garrett doesn't see how it comes back. March 19th, the day after Phoenix. Garrett arrives at his office at 6 a.m. There's already a stack of papers on his desk, 47 resignation letters. All senior engineers, all in Marshall's direct chain of command, all identical. If Marshall Whitmore is not trusted to lead this program, we are not trusted to support it. 47. Nearly half of Mission Control's senior staff. Preston enters. They started submitting them at midnight, all coordinated. Marshall called them after he left yesterday. He's gutting the program. He's making a point. Garrett picks up the letters, reads them one by one. Names he knows, engineers he's worked with for years, all of them choosing Marshall over NASA. Loyalty, friendship, trust, all the things Garrett chose to sacrifice for the mission. Now Marshall is showing him what that sacrifice costs. Can we function? Garrett asks. Barely. We'll promote junior engineers, train them fast, but it'll take time to get them up to speed. Time. Always time. The thing they don't have. How much does this delay us? Preston calculates. 2 weeks, maybe 3. We'll need time to reorganize, redistribute responsibilities, make sure the people who stay can handle the workload. 2 weeks. That pushes them into April. The Soviets could launch any day. Garrett sits at his desk, head in his hands. He replaced Marshall to speed things up. Now he's slower than before Phoenix started. $200 million, 8 weeks, 47 engineers, and he's further behind than when he started. At 10 a.m. the CIA briefing. Garrett is summoned to a classified session underground. Federal building downtown, no windows, 3 CIA officers, 1 Air Force general, all looking grim. Mr. Administrator, we need to show you something. They dim the lights, project photographs on the screen, Soviet launch sites, rocket components, technical schematics. Baikonur Cosmodrome, we've monitored Soviet moon program for 18 months. They've attempted 4 missions, all failed. New photographs, wreckage, twisted metal, classified satellite images. Mission 1 oxygen system failure, cosmonaut died of hypoxia in Earth orbit. Mission 2 trajectory miscalculation, crashed into lunar surface at high speed, 2 cosmonauts killed. Mission 3 successful moon orbit but re-entry system failed, capsule lost in deep space, 1 cosmonaut aboard probably alive for days before oxygen ran out. Mission 4 re-entry angle too steep, burned up in atmosphere. 2 cosmonauts incinerated. Garrett's stomach turns. 6 dead cosmonauts, 6 families, all hidden by the Kremlin. But that's not why we called you here. They project a document, handwritten, Russian, with English translation. This is from a defected Soviet engineer, part of their moon program. He describes what happened before Mission 2. Garrett reads the translation. The trajectory engineers told Director Korolev the calculations were not ready. We needed 3 more months to verify. Korolev said we don't have 3 months. We have orders from Moscow. Launch immediately. 2 engineers refused, said it would kill the cosmonauts. They were arrested that night, shot the next morning. The rest of us did as we were told. We launched. We killed those 2 men because we were afraid to die ourselves. The room is silent. Garrett reads it twice, 3 times. The Soviets murdered engineers who asked for more time. The CIA officer speaks. The Soviet Union is winning this race by killing their own people, forcing launches before systems are ready. 6 cosmonauts dead, 2 engineers executed, and they're about to launch again. Mission 5, launch window opens in 3 weeks. Our intelligence says the math is correct this time. The systems are ready. They're going to make it. Garrett sets down the document. His hands are steady, his mind clear. Thank you for the briefing. He stands, walks out, no questions, no comments. Outside in the federal building parking lot, Garrett sits in his car for 20 minutes. 6 cosmonauts dead because their leadership valued speed over safety. Marshall asked for more time. Garrett said no, but Garrett didn't kill Marshall, didn't arrest him, just moved him aside, and Marshall had the freedom to resign, to fight back, to take 47 engineers with him. Because America is not the Soviet Union. That's the difference. That's what they're fighting for. Garrett starts his car, drives to Marshall's house, Marshall's wife answers. Her face is tired, sad. He doesn't want to see you, Garrett. I know, but I need to see him, please. She hesitates. Then, he's in the garage, but Garrett, he's hurting. Be careful. The garage has been converted into an office. Maps, charts, technical manuals. Marshall sits at a desk, not working, just sitting. I asked you not to come, Marshall says without turning. I know, but I came anyway. Why to apologize to tell me Phoenix was a good try? To make yourself feel better about destroying my career? No, to tell you I need you back. Marshall turns, his eyes are red. From crying or lack of sleep, Garrett can't tell. You need me. You just watched me fail spectacularly. You just lost $200 million on my gamble, and now you need me. I saw something today, something from the CIA. Soviet cosmonauts, 6 of them dead, engineers murdered for asking for more time. Marshall, they're winning by killing their own people. Garrett sits, uninvited. You were right. Safety matters, lives matter. You built this program for 18 months making sure we wouldn't kill anyone. That matters. That's the difference between us and them. But I failed. You didn't fail at safety. You failed at speed. Those are different things. Phoenix proved you can still design brilliant systems. You just need someone else to execute them fast. Marshall's laugh is bitter. So you want me back to design while Cole executes? I'm the idea man and he's the doer. No, I want you back as safety officer. Final veto power on anything Cole proposes. He moves fast. You make sure fast doesn't mean fatal. Both things together. Marshall looks at him. You want me to babysit Cole Hunter? I want you to keep Americans alive while we beat the Soviets. Can you do that? Silence. Long silence. Final veto power, Marshall asks. In writing. And if I say something's unsafe, that's final, no appeals, no overrides. None. And Garrett, we're not friends anymore. We're colleagues, professional relationship only. Can you accept that? Garrett's chest tightens, but this is the price. This is what leadership costs. If that's what it takes to get you back, yes. Marshall stands. I'll be there tomorrow, 8 a.m. Conference Room B. I assume that's where Cole is starting his sprint. Yes. Then I'll be there, not for you, for the astronauts. Someone needs to make sure Cole's cowboy act doesn't kill them. He walks past Garrett, out of the garage, into his house. Garrett sits alone in Marshall's office, surrounded by 2 decades of friendship turned into professional courtesy. He got what he came for. Marshall is coming back. But the friendship is gone, maybe forever. This is what choosing the mission over friendship looks like. This is the price, and Garrett will live with it for the rest of his life. March 20th, 1969, 8 o'clock in the morning, Conference Room B. Garrett arrives first, then Cole, then Marshall. The 3 men sit, Garrett at the head, Cole on his right, Marshall on his left. The geometry matters. Garrett between them, always between them. Marshall and Cole don't greet each other, don't even make eye contact. Just sit, professional, cold, necessary. Gentlemen, Garrett begins. Soviet launch window opens in 3 weeks. Cole, you said 45 days. That puts us at May 4th. Can you still deliver? Marshall, you have final veto on safety. Are we clear to Crystal? Cole spreads schematics across the table. We're cutting 60% of the planned systems. Core functionality only. Get there, land, return. That's it. Marshall studies the plans, silent, calculating. No redundant backups, Marshall says. 1 failure kills the crew. Correct, that's why we test everything 3 times, fast iteration. 3 times isn't 30 times. No, but 30 times takes 6 months. 3 times takes 6 days. They stare at each other. 2 philosophies, 2 men, neither backing down. Garrett intervenes. Marshall, where's the line? What's acceptable risk versus suicide? Marshall doesn't look away from Cole. I need daily reviews, every system, every change. I approve or it doesn't fly. Agreed, Cole says. And if I veto something, that's final, no appeals. Cole looks at Garrett. Garrett nods. Agreed, Cole says. They shake hands, brief, professional. But they hold the grip for a second longer than necessary. testing, measuring. Then they release. The unlikely partnership begins. April 15th, 1969. 26 days into the 45-day sprint, Garrett lives in mission control now. Caught in his office, 4 hours sleep, back to the floor. Cole works with the engineers, 16-hour days, no breaks. Marshall reviews every decision from his console in the corner. They communicate through written notes, never speak directly unless forced to. But it works. Brutally. Efficiently. Cole proposes cutting the third backup power system. Marshall reviews, approves, 3 hours saved. Cole wants to reduce heat shield thickness. Marshall calculates re-entry angles, vetoes it. You'll burn up. Find another way. Cole finds another way. This happens 50 times a day. Proposal, review, approve or veto, fast, clean, professional, no arguments, no politics, just engineering and judgment. Garrett watches from the gallery. His job now is different. Shield these two men from Washington, from the press, from the senators demanding updates. Preston handles daily briefings. Garrett handles impossible questions. Administrator, can you guarantee success? No. But he says, we're doing everything possible. Is it true you fired Marshall Whitmore? Yes. But he says, Marshall Whitmore is serving as chief safety officer. He's essential to this mission. Sources say morale has collapsed. Is the program falling apart? Yes. But he says, we have the best team in history. Morale is strong. Professional lies. Necessary lies. The kind administrators tell to keep programs alive. April 20th, day 31. News breaks at noon. Soviet launch detected. Baikonur Cosmodrome. Preston runs into Garrett's office. They launched. The Soviets, Soyuz 7, lunar trajectory. Garrett's heart stops. They're not ready. Still 14 days from Cole's target. He runs to mission control. The floor is chaos. Controlled, but chaos. Cole at the main console. Marshall beside him. First time they've stood together voluntarily. Talk to me, Garrett says. Cole, Soyuz 7 launched 32 minutes ago. Lunar trajectory confirmed. If they maintain course, they'll land in 4 days. Can we launch? No, 14 days minimum. Can we accelerate, Marshall? Not without killing our crew. Garrett watches the screens. The Soviet rocket climbing. Perfect trajectory. 6 dead cosmonauts, 2 murdered engineers, all leading to this moment. How long until we know if they succeed, Cole? 4 days to moon, 1 day surface, 3 days back, 8 days total. We'll know by April 28th. 8 days. 8 days watching the Soviet flag go up while American rockets sit grounded. The room is silent except for computers and radio static. Then Cole says something unexpected. Good. Everyone turns. Good. Garrett's voice sharp. They're beating us. No. They're risking everything on an undercooked mission. We have 14 more days. If they succeed, we congratulate them and still go. Second place beats no place. If they fail... He doesn't finish, but everyone understands. April 23rd, day 5 of Soviet mission. Garrett hasn't left mission control. NASA set up cots in conference rooms. People sleep in shifts. Intelligence comes in fragments. Radio intercepts. Telescope observations. CIA reports. Day 1 launch successful, Earth orbit. Day 2 translunar injection. They're committed. Day 3 trajectory good. Systems nominal. Day 4 lunar orbit achieved. Preparing descent. Day 5 0600 GMT. Descent begins. Garrett stands with 300 people watching screens showing almost nothing. Just data, numbers, trajectory plots. NASA telescopes in Australia tracking. Images grainy, low resolution. But they can see it. A tiny dot descending. The room absolutely silent. Lower, lower. The trajectory changes, too fast, wrong angle, someone... They're off course. The dot accelerates, falling, not descending, falling. Impact. The dot disappears, 30 seconds, no one speaks. CIA liaison quiet, telemetry lost, radio silence, Baikonur not responding. Soyuz 7 crashed, cosmonauts dead, Marshall's voice barely audible, God help them. Cole says nothing, just stares at the screen where the dot used to be. Garrett feels sick. Yes, America still has a chance, but 2 more men just died, 2 more families destroyed. This is not victory, this is horror. Back to work, Garrett says finally. 13 days, make sure our men come home alive. The room slowly moves, quiet, subdued but moving. Later, Garrett finds Cole alone in a stairwell, head in hands. "You okay?" Cole looks up, eyes red. "I knew men like that, test pilots. They knew it was rushed, knew the math wasn't right, but they went because that's what we do. We go when ordered, even when we know." They were brave. They were murdered. Their government forced that launch. Those men didn't fail. Their leadership did. Garrett sits beside him. "Then let's not fail ours." Cole nods, stands, goes back to work. May 4th, day 45. Cole's deadline. The spacecraft sits on the pad at Cape Canaveral. Apollo Freedom. Smaller than planned. Stripped down. Fast. Final systems checks complete. 6 p.m. Operations Center. 300 engineers, contractors, staff, all exhausted, all waiting. Cole stands on a chair. "We built this in 45 days. Everyone said impossible. We did it anyway. Tonight we certify flight ready. Questions, engineer and back. What if we're not ready? Then we delay. Safety first. Marshall." Marshall steps forward, first time addressing full team since Phoenix. "I've reviewed every system 3 times. This spacecraft will fly, and it will bring our people home. I guarantee it." Coming from Marshall, that means everything. The room relaxes. Cole and Marshall look at each other. Brief eye contact, not friendship, respect. Garrett watches, feels something unexpected, pride. These two men don't like each other, probably never will, but they're professional enough to put that aside. That's leadership too. May 15th, launch day, -3 weeks, final preparation. Garrett stands on the beach near Cape Canaveral. Watching the rocket lit up in the distance, Marshall appears beside him. Doesn't speak at first, just stands. Finally, "It's going to work." "You sound surprised." "I am. Cole's insane, but he's insane in productive ways. There's a difference." "You've changed your mind about him." "No, I still think he's reckless. But reckless with understanding, that's rare." Garrett looks at his friend, former friend, colleague now. "Marshall, I'm sorry for how I did it. I know. If I could go back. But you can't. And honestly, even if you could, you'd do the same thing. Because it was right. I know that now. Doesn't mean it didn't hurt. Can we ever get back what we had?" Marshall looks at the ocean. Dark water. Stars above. "I don't know. Maybe. After this is over? Maybe we'll find out we can be friends again. Or maybe just 2 men who used to be friends. Either way, we'll survive." He walks away. Garrett stays on the beach, alone. Even if they succeed, even if they beat the Soviets, even if everything goes perfect, the friendship changed, became something else. Professional respect, mutual acknowledgement, but not friendship, not like before. That's the price, and Garrett chose to pay it. Now he lives with the choice. June 3rd, 1969, 9:32 a.m., launch day. Garrett in Mission Control Observation Room. Preston beside him. Marshall at Flight Director Console. Cole at Mission Commander Station. 3 astronauts on the rocket. Commander James Bradley. Pilot Thomas Reed. Lunar Module Specialist Robert Crane. Countdown proceeds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. The rocket lifts. Beautiful, terrible, powerful, climbing, straight, true. T+2 minutes alarm, engine 2 pressure fluctuating, yellow light, not red, not failure, but not normal. Cole's voice, engine 2 anomaly, monitoring. Marshall, flight recommend abort. Cole, negative, within tolerance, continue. Both look at Garrett through glass. The decision is his. Marshall wants abort, safe. Cole wants continue, bold. Garrett has 8 seconds. If he aborts, they lose weeks. If he continues and they die, it's his fault. 7, 6, 5. Garrett stands, speaks into microphone. Continue flight. Monitor every 30 seconds. Prepare abort procedures. Marshall's face shows nothing, but Garrett knows he's furious. Cole nods. 3 minutes, 4, 5, T+6 minutes. Engine 2 stabilized. All nominal. The room exhales. First crisis survived. June 5th. Day 3. Transit to Moon. Systems degrading. Cole's shortcuts showing. Nothing catastrophic. Just problems. Life support 82%, should be 95. Power consumption higher than projected. Navigation requires constant manual corrections. Marshall sends procedures, workarounds, fixes. Cole paces like a caged wolf. 1800 hours critical alarm, life support 78%, mission rules abort at 80%, below threshold, technically should turn around. Marshall stands, walks to Cole. They face each other. Mission rules say abort, Marshall states. Mission rules were written for different circumstances. Rules exist for a reason. Rules exist to be updated when reality changes. Not yelling, worse, cold, professional, lethal. Garrett descends, stands between them. Cole assessment, can they make it? Cole's jaw works. 70% confidence. Marshall, 30% they survive if we continue. 0% they reach moon if we abort. Garrett looks at screens. 2/3 to moon. If they abort, 18 months and 45 days end in nothing. But if he pushes forward and 3 astronauts die, that's on him. Continue mission, Garrett says. Cole improve life support. Marshall give him whatever he needs. We're committed. Marshall's face stone. Nods once. Returns to console. Cole doesn't celebrate. Just works. Hours pass. Engineers work miracles. Midnight life support 79%, still low, but survivable. Garrett doesn't go home. Sleeps on cot. 4 hours, nightmares. June 6th, day 4, landing day. Lunar module separates. Commander Bradley and Specialist Crane descend. Pilot Reed stays in orbit. Descent begins 1400 GMT. Garrett watches. Marshall calling descent profile. Cole monitoring systems. 20,000 feet, 10,000, 5,000. Another alarm. Life support in lunar module 72%. Below abort threshold. Way below. But too late. Can't abort without running out of fuel. Marshall's voice steady. LM be advised, life support at 72%. Bradley's voice calm. Copy, we're landing anyway. 1,000 feet, 500, dust kicks up, 150, contact. Eagle has landed. The room explodes. Cheering, crying, hugging. America on the moon. Garrett stays seated, watching, waiting, because life support still 72%. 12 hours on surface. 3 days to get home. Not safe yet. June 9th. Return. The astronauts made it home. Life support held at 71% all the way. Knife-edge margins, but they made it. America wins June 15th. White House ceremony. President gives Garrett the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Cameras flash. Nation celebrates. Garrett accepts. Says right words. Thanks, right people. But Marshall isn't there. After ceremony, Garrett asks Preston, "Where's Marshall?" Declined to attend. Said it was your victory. That hurts worse than anything. July 20th, 1 month after landing. Garrett drives to Marshall's house. Marshall's wife answers, tired. He's in the garage. The garage converted to office. Marshall at desk reading. Marshall. Marshall looks up. Face aged, gray at temples. Garrett. You weren't at the ceremony. Didn't feel right. It was your victory as much as anyone's. No. Cole's execution on my foundation. I played my part, but not my victory. Garrett sits. I need to tell you something. In January, when I called Cole, I didn't sleep 3 nights. Not because I doubted the decision. Because I knew it would hurt you. And I chose mission over your feelings anyway. I'd do it again. I hate that I'd do it again. But I would. Marshall sets down book. I know. You know, E. Garrett, I've known you 20 years. You're administrator first, friend second. That's what makes you good at your job. Also what makes you hard to be friends with. I don't want to be that person. Too bad. That's who you are. And honestly, I respect you more now than before. Because you made the hard choice, even though it cost you. Did it cost me your friendship? Marshall doesn't answer immediately. I don't know yet. Ask me in a year. Garrett stands. Fair enough. At door, Marshal Cole said something after the mission. He said the only reason he could move fast was because you built something solid. Your 18 months weren't wasted. They were essential. Marshall's eyes wet. He nods. Garrett leaves. December 19th, 1969, 3 a.m. Phone rings. Garrett's wife answers. Her face changes. It's Preston, about Marshall. Garrett takes phone. What happened? Sir Marshall Whitmore, heart attack, massive. He collapsed at home 2 hours ago. They tried to resuscitate. I'm sorry. He's gone. The phone slips. Marshall is dead. Garrett drives to hospital. Too late. Marshall's body moved to morgue. His wife there. They embrace, both crying. Later, Garrett goes to Marshall's NASA office. Personal effects need collecting. On desk letter, unsealed, dated June 2nd, night before launch, Garrett reads, Garrett, if you're reading this, something went wrong. Either mission failed or I'm dead. If mission failed, stop blaming yourself. You made right calls. All of them. Even ones I disagreed with. If mission succeeded and I'm dead, let me say what I should have said in person. You were right. I was building for yesterday's war. Cole was building for today's. You saw that before I did. That's what great leaders do. See when world has changed and adapt, even when it hurts, even when it costs friendships. I was angry, still angry, but also proud. You did what I couldn't, took risks I was afraid to take, and you brought our people home. We're still friends. I just needed time to accept that friends can make hard decisions that hurt each other and still be friends. I wish I'd told you this before launch. But I'm stubborn, you know that. Take care of yourself, Garrett. Next missions will be easier. Not because work is easier, but because you'll know you can make these decisions and survive them. Your friend Marshall. Garrett reads 3 times, folds carefully, puts in pocket, sits at Marshall's desk, in Marshall's chair, and cries. For first time since this started, cries. For friendship that died and was being reborn. For man too stubborn to say these things in person. For knowledge that Marshall forgave him, but Garrett never got to say thank you. Too late. Always too late. December 28th, Marshall's funeral. 600 people, astronauts, engineers, politicians. Garrett delivers eulogy, stands at podium, looks at faces, all waiting for something meaningful, prepared remarks in pocket, doesn't use them. Instead, Marshall taught me safety isn't cowardice, that careful preparation saves lives, that you can disagree and still respect. But he taught me something else. Something I didn't understand until I read his letter. Pulls out letter, unfolds. He wrote this night before launch, said friends can make hard decisions that hurt each other and still be friends. I didn't believe that. Thought I'd destroyed our friendship forever. But Marshall, being wiser, knew better. Knew true friendship survives hard decisions. Best friendships built on respect, not just affection. I just wish I'd known that before he died, because I would have told him what he meant. Not tomorrow, not next week, right then, but I thought we had time. We didn't. Looks at casket, American flag draped over it. So my advice, tell the Marshalls in your life what they mean. Today, not tomorrow, because tomorrow might be too late. Tell people who challenge you, frustrate you, make your job harder. Tell them you respect them, need them, value their contribution, because they won't be here forever, and you'll regret every conversation you postponed. Folds letter, returns to seat, June 20th, 2000, 31 years later. Garrett Brennan, 87, retired 20 years, Florida, watching ocean. Documentary crew interviews him, 30th anniversary moon landing. Interviewer young, Ernest wasn't born yet. Administrator Brennan, people call you the man who put America on moon. Accurate. Garrett's voice rough, old but steady. No, Marshall Whitmore built program 18 months, made it safe, made it possible. Cole Hunter executed 45 days, made it fast, made it real. I just decided when to switch. That's all leadership is, knowing when. Regret how you handled Marshall's reassignment. Every day, 31 years, I was right to make change, wrong in how. Should have talked to him first, privately, as friend, before acting as administrator. Lesson: you can make hard decisions without making them harder than necessary. What's the lesson for today's leaders? Garrett looks at camera. This is important, what he wants people to understand. Leadership isn't choosing between caution and speed, it's knowing when you need which. Marshall's 18 months weren't wasted. They built foundations strong enough to survive Cole's risks. Cole's 45 days weren't reckless. They were built on Marshall's groundwork, both men right, just at different times. Greatest mistake leaders make: loyalty to past methods when situation demands new ones. Second greatest, abandoning foundational principles, pursuing speed. The art is knowing difference. Any regrets? Eyes water. 87 and still cries thinking about it. 1. Never told Marshall what he meant while he was alive. Thought we had time. We didn't. So my advice. Tell Marshalls and Coles in your life. People who drive you crazy, who challenge you, who you sometimes overrule, tell them what they mean today, not tomorrow, because tomorrow might be too late. Interview ends. Crew leaves. Garrett sits on porch, watching ocean. Phone rings. Grandson. Grandpa interview online, going viral. That's nice. Can I ask something? Sure. Think Marshall forgave you. Thinks about letter. Read 1,000 times 31 years. Yes, but question isn't whether he forgave me. Question is whether I've forgiven myself. Have you? No, but I'm working on it. They talk more, then hangs up. Drives to cemetery once a month, always has. 31 years, Marshall Whitmore's grave. Simple headstone. Name. Dates. He made space safe. Stands there. Doesn't pray, doesn't talk, just thinks. About promises made and kept. Friendships broken and partially healed. Price of leadership and whether it's worth paying. Thinks about what he'd say if Marshall here now. Thank you. I'm sorry. You were right about many things. I was right about few. Together we did something impossible. And I miss you. But Marshall isn't here. Just stone. Memory. Places hand on headstone. Warm from Florida sun. Whispers, we did it, old friend. Together. Walks back to car. Drives home. Dinner with wife. Married 62 years. She knows where he went. Doesn't ask. Just holds his hand across table. That night, Garrett sleeps peacefully. First time in years. Not because he's at peace. Because he's learned to live with weight. Leaders carry burdens. Make impossible choices. Sacrifice relationships for missions. Live with regret. But they also achieve things no one else could. Put men on moon. Win races unwinnable. Change history. Marshall's letter was right. Garrett made right calls. All of them. Even ones that hurt. But Marshall also right about something else. Friends can survive hard decisions. Friendship didn't die. It changed. Became something deeper, more honest, more real, and in end that's what mattered. Not moon landing. Not victory over Soviets. Not medals and ceremonies. The knowledge that two men could hurt each other and still respect each other. Could fight and still achieve together. Could break and still be whole. That's real triumph. That's what Garrett Brennan learned cold January 1969. That's what he wants world to know. Leadership is knowing when to change. Friendship is surviving the change. And wisdom is understanding both worth fighting for. Garrett closes eyes. Moon rising outside window. Bright. Full. Watching Earth like always has. Up there, lunar dust footprints of 3 Americans. Commander Bradley. Pilot Reed. Specialist Crane. They got there because Marshall built safe and Cole built fast, and Garrett knew when to switch. 3 men, 1 mission, 1 impossible goal achieved. That's enough. That has to be enough. Garrett sleeps. And for first time 31 years doesn't dream of Marshall's funeral. He dreams of Rose Garden, January 15th, 1968, young again, strong again, standing beside best friend, making promise he'll keep no matter what it costs.